Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next installment of the VeChain Carbon Emissions Carbon Credit Research. Today, I have Alison from Carbon Collective. Alison, can you introduce yourself and let everyone know what you do?
Hey, everyone. My name is Alison. Thanks, Justin. I'm with Climate Collective. We are an innovation network that is supporting entrepreneurs, scientists, nonprofits, investors, to build out and apply new digital technologies to unlock climate action at scale. So glad to be with you today.
Yes, thank you for that. So I've been speaking with a number of people on this topic. I've been having some various opinions on tracking carbon emissions and carbon credits on the blockchain. What's your thoughts on that, and what do you think the future holds on that topic?
Yeah, well, I think we have a lot of opportunities right now. We don't have too many proven use cases yet, but we have a lot of opportunity to explore. And some of the benefits that we're looking forward to with tracking carbon on chain are primarily in terms of transparency and auditability. So to understand why this is useful at all, we have to go back to what are the problems that we're trying to solve. And tracking carbon off chain or just anywhere in the real world, we can look at carbon markets. Those have been where most of the activity around measuring and tracking carbon over time have occurred. So over the last 20 years with the voluntary carbon market, a lot of the procedures for measuring, reporting, and verifying carbon sequestration has been largely analog. So it's been literally paper and pencil or just an Excel spreadsheet. And sometimes it's uploaded into a PDF, but that's not even machine readable. So there are a lot of opportunities to automate those processes and increase the efficiency and also the transparency of how this is done. And of course, science evolves over time, different methodologies for measuring how carbon is being sequestered or removed. So it makes sense that we'll have to update the science over time and then update how we measure as well. So I think that's something that tracking on chain can help us with in terms of transparency over time, how the science has changed to help us have a bit more intellectual honesty about how we're conducting this work. And with auditability, being able to look back in time on an immutable ledger. So tracking something on blockchain allows you, it's tamper-proof, right? You can't change it once it's stored. So you can have a lot higher confidence in the data itself. And building in points of automation with smart contracts or with just automated calculation even can help remove some of those risks for human error in the process. So at a broad view, I think those are a lot of the opportunities, to say nothing of the financial opportunity of what decentralized finance might allow for us as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned a few things there. I want to circle back on that decentralized finance aspect later. But whenever you said that a lot of this information is tracked on pen and paper or pencil and paper, right? Depending on where it is. Do you foresee with the advancements in AI, do you foresee AI having an impact on this, on having AI read some of that older information and kind of transferring that information on chain? And if so, like, how do you envision that? I just now thought of that, so it may not even be feasible.
It's an interesting question. I'm not super well versed in AI, so I wonder if different AI or machine learning models could help us to sift through that legacy data that is collected. I wonder if it could help us come up with different trends or just help us to process that wealth of data that does exist. If it was in a machine readable format, first of all, so if it was all digital, perhaps different AI tools could help with that. But that's part of the problem too. A lot of this data is stored in very different formats. It's not all readable in a unified way. So I think that's probably part of step one. That's as much as I can say at this point, though.
Yeah. So given that it's in different formats, do you have any kind of insight on how we can kind of standardize this information where we can have not really like well, I can't say a centralized platform because we're not trying to move into centralization, but have like a common language or a type of a standard for all of this tracking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you could compile data potentially in a central repository, but collected through decentralized methods. So I think you could create something like a single source of truth where data is pulled from many different servers, many different file types, and converted into a more open source database. So if you were to have kind of like a central library of climate data that's publicly accessible, it's a digital public good that everyone could tap into, and access for high quality climate data, could that then help standardize kind of how climate work is conducted if we were all operating off of the same song sheet?
Okay. So I know you mentioned decentralized finance, and I want to kind of go into that space a little bit, delve into that a little bit. How do you think? So, in your opinion, because I've received different statements on this. So, are you saying that this sustainability movement, this carbon tracking movement, is going to be in a DeFi space, or do you think it's going to create like a new bucket, for lack of a better term, of this refi that people are referring to it as?
I think there will be a number of different applications. I think where decentralized finance tools come in are they can help us tap into new areas of liquidity. So again, if you're talking about tracking carbon for the purposes of incentivizing different behaviors, let's say you're using carbon credits as a medium or as some kind of token of exchange to incentivize a certain behavior, and you want to reward or punish certain behaviors, we could also think about a carbon tax. But let's stick with maybe the credit analogy here. If you are, there are a couple of reasons why you might invest in a carbon credit. You could purchase it, invest in it for the purposes of retiring it and claiming the environmental benefit, right? And maybe I'm a large corporation, or I'm an industry partner, and I have a carbon balance that I need to account for or want to account for, and I'm going to claim that environmental benefit by investing in carbon credits. Or you could use it as a financial instrument. You could see it as a digital environmental asset, a new asset class that if I hold, I think this is going to be more valuable in the future. Maybe I want to resell it. Now, there are various pros and cons to that approach, but one thing that it can help us with as a financial instrument is to channel more capital into carbon projects. So if we look at the tools of DeFi and different liquidity pools that exist on blockchain, that really could be a method. If we track credits on chain, it could help be a method of channeling new streams of finance, new streams of capital into, the important carbon sequestration projects that we need to be scaling up across the world. And that's how you transfer the capital into real world climate action.
Excellent. Okay. So I understand that you all work with a number of different groups, and based on your experience, what current challenges do you all face, or what challenges or kind of drawbacks do you see with enterprise adoption? Individual adoption as well as enterprise adoption. That's like probably 4 questions there, but
yeah. For enterprise adoption, I think this applies to larger institutions as well, and some corporate partners. I think there's, this is still a very new space. So just a level of awareness. Thankfully, climate is becoming more of a focal point in global conversations, in industry, in government, in politics and just in civil affairs as well. And I think that so a lot of folks are starting to think about, okay, how can I keep track of my carbon footprint? How can I start to measure this? And then how can I do something about it? There's a lot of focus on climate these days, and that's fantastic. But there's not always an understanding of, well, how does blockchain come in? Why does this matter? You know, what are the benefits? Why should I care, essentially? So I think that the biggest challenge right now is just that basic level of raising awareness, and maybe you could call it a communication challenge of sharing what are the key benefits of blockchain. How can it help provide solutions to the challenges that we face in coordinating mass climate effort across the globe? And then secondary to that, to that awareness and communication is building trust. So I think there have been a lot of branding issues, you could say, in the Web3, in the blockchain space. There's sometimes an impression that this is the Wild West and it can come with a lot of scams, and that there are a lot of opportunities out there to lose your money or to have no impact and basically to get swindled. So I think this is a real credibility issue. Why would corporates, why would companies, let alone individuals, want to get involved in something if they don't have faith in it, if they think it's a scam? So I think that's another part of education that is incumbent upon this community to be communicating better, that actually this enhances, our transparency and verifiability. Actually, this makes data a lot more accessible. It actually, enables new governance methods. So you open up decision rights to more audiences that may not have had them in the past. So I think communicating how these tools really solve problems will help more audiences to understand what the benefit is and why this has such a revolutionary potential in the climate space.
I like that. And I like how you brought up whenever we struggle with the linkages, between real world use cases and blockchain, because I think that's one of the current issues, in my opinion. That's one of the current issues that we have now, whereas, some of these projects are building solutions, but there's no linkage to a real world use case, right? So you hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head with that one, and then with the credibility, yep, that's a big problem, And so you did kind of touch on some of this, but in your opinion, how do we get? You might be repeating yourself here, but how do we get, to wide adoption of refi or building sustainability, building sustainable sustainability use cases, right? On using blockchain?
I would take kind of a two-pronged approach. I would take kind of a large scale approach. So you target enterprise, you target institutions, you target groups who have huge business operations. And if they implement a new technology, it really offers a step change in any given industry. And they can also serve as kind of an anchor customer to overcome those credibility issues, right? So if I'm operating in transportation and I see a major trucking company utilizing blockchain to track its emissions for its supply chain, that changes the landscape. That changes how that company gets to compete in the space. If they have enhanced data, if they have lower costs, if they have particular business advantages from the adoption of this technology, it may trigger others in certain industries to adopt that as well. So think about cloud storage, for example. Any new technology needs a few first movers and early adopters to make something more mainstream and widely adopted. So going with enterprise and going with institutions gives you a lot more visibility, and it allows you to have a larger impact at a larger scale through more efficient partnerships that you're investing in, essentially. And then I would also take, so if you go large scale and you go enterprise and institutional, Also be looking at community and individual use, because the applications and the benefits, and this comes back to the individual problems that either businesses or institutions or individuals face, they're all going to be different. So if you're designing a solution, you need to design it around what is the actual problem that it's solving. And for individuals and communities, I think regenerative finance or blockchain-enabled tools have unique advantages that are different from what you might offer to a business or to an institution. So if businesses and institutions might care a lot about the data integrity and what it enables in terms of tracking their supply chain, to an individual, what these tools might be able to open up is new revenue streams, new forms of earning income. If I am measuring on the ground the evolution of a carbon project, maybe I'm reforesting mangroves, maybe I've been planting mangroves. There are ways that using blockchain-enabled technology to monitor the state of that natural asset, the state of that mangrove forest, could reward me with certain incentives after I upload data. And maybe I can earn revenue for a project like that. This is actually a pilot that a group called Gainforest and Sella Foundation have been testing out in the Philippines, is exactly that. Or perhaps it enables me to access new asset classes that I never had before as an individual. Perhaps it allows me to overcome certain fees or unlock greater efficiency with trading resources as far as it comes to preserving natural community resources. So it all comes down to what is the problem that you want to address, and how do you frame the solution, whether that's for a business or an institution, or to an individual or to a community. And there are really a lot of wide-ranging use cases that are being explored in the refi space right now, and that's personally what I find so fascinating.
I like that. I like that. So is there anything else that you would want to add in terms of this discussion, in terms of what more people should do, or do you have like a call to action, in this space?
I would say it's still very early days, right? So a lot of groups are are still in what I would call like spaghetti on the wall stage, just like throwing and seeing what sticks. There's a lot of innovation happening. It's an incredibly dynamic space. So I would say stay tuned, because there's a lot that's being experimented with and coming out, and we need to do more, right? This is where innovation takes place. And I find that really exciting. But we're also looking for new real world use cases, because by proving out how something impacts climate work tangibly on the ground, that's where we're going to build the most confidence, I think, in these applications. And that's where we can really help to build trust and help to promote adoption, is by demonstrating to someone how this offers a tangible benefit, either to their business or to their individual life.
Excellent. So Alison, thank you for your time. Where can people find you?
You can find the Climate Collective online at climatecollective.org. We're also on LinkedIn and on Twitter.
All right. Thank you once again. Thank you for your time, and for everyone else, until next time.